Chris Lee and Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview 4 SEC basketball games. For Saturday, February the 3rd, we will talk about Arkansas at LSU, South Carolina at Georgia, Missouri at Vanderbilt, and Florida at Texas A&M. And we'll give you some predictions at the end. These games are brought to you by BetOnline. It's playoff time. The road to Vegas has gone through San Francisco and Baltimore. BetOnline is your number one source for playoff football odds, stats, trends, and lines with everything from point spreads to hundreds of player performance props. Head to BetOnline today. Stay updated on all the action. BetOnline. The game starts here. Well, Max, the SEC slate starts in Baton Rouge on Saturday, noon Eastern, 11 Central, which is our time zone, or my time zone, not yours. You can catch that on ESPN2. Arkansas comes off a win over Missouri on the road. The Razorbacks are about 6-point underdogs on the road, according to Ken Pomeroy. Bart Torvik has got this almost 7 points. So LSU a solid favorite. LSU has been a really solid team. I think it's a notch below probably the top 10 teams in the SEC, but still a team that can beat anybody on any given night. We saw the Tigers do that at Texas A&M to open the season. We've seen LSU play teams close. Arkansas, we kind of gave up on. And then the Razorbacks lost a point guard and went and put on the best performance maybe I've seen Arkansas put on in a while. I get that it's at Missouri, that Missouri's not very good, but I like the way the team looked. The offense flowed a little better. I'm a little intrigued to see this game. I feel like I know what LSU is, and I'm open to what Arkansas could be, but I also feel like I've fallen in that trap before.
Yeah, that's why this game is a little bit tricky, because you don't want to fall into that same trap again. This to non-SEC fans, this game's probably gonna slip through the cracks on Saturday, but not for me. This one is for both teams. I think you get a must-win scenario, trying to keep their seasons alive. You got an Arkansas team who's 1-3 in your last 4, and you've got an LSU team who's 1-3 in their last 4. So both teams kind of back against the wall here, and we've seen both teams in the last few games play some decent basketball. You have not Georgia, LSU, who played Georgia very close on the road, and then the Alabama game. I mean, Alabama puts up 109. I think that's one of those games you just got to move on from. Team just shot the lights out. But Mike White, after that Georgia game, called LSU one of the better defenses in the conference. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to buy too much into that Alabama performance and kind of knock the LSU defense. I think that was more just, man, Alabama shot the lights out at home, and we've seen them be one of the better offenses in the country. I don't think we should knock LSU too much for that. When you look at the numbers and like how these teams have been matching up in SEC play, there's a few different areas where I think there's some paths to victory. For LSU, we have an Arkansas defense that is dead last in the SEC at defending the 3-ball. They're allowing just under 40% from 3. And this is an LSU team that sneakily can really shoot the ball. They've got some really good shooters off the bench. They can stretch the floor with Reed at the 4 spot. So we saw this LSU team shoot the lights out at home against Ole Miss. They can do that again, 100%. I think the perimeter advantage is going to be with the Tigers here. But then you flip it to inside and the free throw battle, and I think that's all Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to get to the free throw line much more often, and also they don't foul very much on defense. So I think this is a real battle of styles and game plans where I think LSU is going to kind of own the perimeter attack offensively, but then Arkansas is going to really be aggressive and try to get to the free throw line. So this one can get pretty close here, Chris.
Yeah, Arkansas is not a very efficient shooting team. The outside shooting's been a thing, but there's things the Razorbacks can do that give teams problems. Arkansas gets to the foul line. That's probably a little less a factor on the road. Arkansas also blocks a lot of shots, and that can give some teams problems. But look, the Razorbacks have not put together anything consistently. I'm open to the idea that Arkansas could have something here. I feel like I need to see it. 2 or 3 nights in a row before I can really buy in. This feels to me like a game where Jalen Cook and Jordan Wright, we've seen those two take over down the stretch and just win games for the team. It's in Baton Rouge. I don't have a tremendous degree of certainty about it, but I do like LSU in this one.
Yeah, I think that the front court is going to be a bit of a stalemate. We have some decent depth of size on both teams. Mekhi Mitchell's been playing probably the best he's played in his career. He's got 18 defensive rebounds in the past 2 games. But we've seen LSU be able to really play physically. I believe they out-rebounded Texas A&M in their first matchup. So we've seen them be able to show up and really play physical too. I like how you mentioned Jordan Wright and Cook. I think this is going to be kind of a game of backcourts. And if Tremont Mark is on, you might keep them in the game just by himself. But I think that the options that LSU has with Cook, with Wright, with Tyrell Ward, with Trey Hannibal, they have more options that have been showing up consistently. I'll go LSU here at home, kind of just deferring to the home team and what I think is going to be a close game with 2 teams playing for their lives here.
Yeah, last thing worth mentioning, I think Keon Minifield is kind of the X factor here. He played more minutes than he's played in a while. I thought the offense looked good with him. We've seen him have an outburst before when it was at UNC Wilmington when he got 32 points. But, I mean, since then we've seen nothing close to that. And last time out was the closest he's gotten to that again. So, anyway, I think if Arkansas is going to make a charge late and try to salvage its season, a lot is going to ride on Keon Minifield. Noon Central, South Carolina at Georgia on the SEC Network. I think you and I are really looking forward to this game. Georgia has really grown on me. It is a team that I like. South Carolina is a team that I feel like I keep waiting for it to come apart a little bit, but that hasn't happened. Lamont Paris would be our coach of the year if we did this today. Let's see what we've got on KenPom. We have got Georgia is a 1-point favorite with a 54% chance to win this one on KenPom. And Bart Torvik has this as, excuse me, it's taking its sweet time. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not loading. Okay, here we go. Georgia, a 2-point favorite with a 56% chance of winning. Bart Torvik and KenPom are usually within a point. Oh, there he is.
Who's that man?
What just happened here? What an
doing a run-in
by.
We came at a good
all
time.
kinds of scheduling issues this week. We're doing run-ins here on these shows. My goodness, how professional are we?
Blake, you came at a great time. We just finished up LSU Arkansas, and we're about to dive into Georgia South Carolina.
You want my pick for LSU Arkansas?
Yes, please.
Who did you 2 pick?
Of course.
Not telling you.
Oh, this is good. No, don't tell him. Don't tell him.
You both picked LSU. I guarantee you.
But you don't know that. It's driving you crazy.
I guarantee you both picked LSU. Give me the Tigers in this one.
Oh gosh,
we did it.
You're welcome, Arkansas.
All right, off to a great start here. Well, who are we talking about now?
I feel like this, Max. Have you ever seen Seinfeld? It was before your time.
Yes, I have.
He just did the thing where Kramer comes running into Jerry's apartment and skids on the floor. That's what just happened here.
Change his name to Kramer.
Right.
All right, we're on Georgia, South Carolina now.
Where were we?
Georgia, South Carolina.
Have at it, Blake.
Well, they're going to play at 1 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Let's see. So this is an interesting game because, as you remember last time, Georgia did the unthinkable and won at South Carolina. So it's just, I mean, think about that. On this run that South Carolina's been on, one of their 3 losses this year is to Georgia. And so I was at 2 weeks ago, something like that, maybe a little longer. But I mean, hey, Georgia's coming off a pretty deflating loss to Alabama after kind of a deflating loss to Florida in overtime. And so another home game. And I think the common theme for Georgia at home has been what? I mean, they've had every opportunity to beat all these teams at home, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Alabama. They did beat Arkansas at home. They did beat LSU at home. So I think you got to expect Georgia to play well here, knowing that they beat South Carolina the first time around. And, of course, that was a I'm sure if you're a Georgia South Carolina fan, you remember that game the last time around. 64 free throws taken in that matchup. I hope we don't get that many here, but that may be the path to success for Georgia, given the physicality of this game. So I'm curious to see where you guys lean on this one, but I would expect another close physical game between these two.
Yeah, I think we had the spread at what, Chris? Like 1.5, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm expecting a close game. Looking back at that first matchup, got to remember South Carolina led by 9-10 points in the second half and kind of blew it there. Didn't make their free throws, didn't make many threes. I think they'll shoot a little bit better, but also I think Georgia's going to shoot better than 3 of 13 from 3 at home. They might not shoot 32 free throws, but they're probably going to make a few more threes. So I think it all kind of, I don't think you can really take any huge takeaway from the first game as to, one team had a terrible performance and the other team did. I think it's going to be pretty even again. I think one individual matchup I'm really looking at is how Georgia likes to play small. They like to put Jabri Abdur-Rahim at the 4 and kind of stretch the floor out. And this is a South Carolina team that can adapt for that. Colin Murray-Boyle, Zachary Davis, both 6'7", very athletic. They can defend that type of team. They don't have to change anything. So I think the matchups are dead even. I think this is a stalemate type of game. You got Georgia at home against a firing hot South Carolina team. Spread's going to be 1, maybe 2, maybe even it's dead even pick 'em. This game's hard to pick.
I feel like a faster paced game would face Georgia. We've talked about South Carolina grinding teams down, and that's a concern if I'm Georgia in trying to win this game, as we just saw what happened at Tennessee. But I feel like Georgia, guys, has been a little bit unlucky. You look at the past few games. I'm just gonna run through some outcomes here with Georgia. Okay, last time out, lost to Alabama at home, led most of that game, ends up losing by 9 in a place where the score really was not indicative of the game and how close it was. The game before, Georgia, I think, came from behind to take that to overtime and then lose to Florida there against a Florida team that's playing really well. The game before, Georgia wins a close one against LSU. The game before, the score was closer than the way it was played. Kentucky led big, and then Georgia came back and made it a 9-point game at the end. You talked about the South Carolina game. The one before that was the Tennessee game, where Georgia led a lot of the way and just got Dalton connected down the stretch. What I like about Georgia in this game, I just feel like got a lot of guys. I mean, RJ Melendez had that big scoring game a couple of weeks ago. You've seen Blue Kane step up in spots and really do some nice things. Silas Demery's done some stuff. Jabri Abdur-Rahim, probably their best player, and he takes a back seat some nights to other guys. Russell Chiwa's a guy that can give you 15 and 10 on a given night. I feel like Georgia's due a little bit of a break, and I feel like it's just got more guys who could give you that 15-point night than maybe South Carolina does. I'm leaning Georgia in this one, and that's going to be my pick, guys. Max?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a bounce back spot for Georgia, coming off of a few kind of heartbreaking losses. Kind of a back against the wall type of game. But Lamont Paris has me scared to death on these picks when it's a South Carolina game. And I'm sure our South Carolina fans want us to keep picking away from them so we can keep just guaranteeing them victory after victory. And I'll do that for them. I'll take Georgia here at home.
There's no way this man is going to do it.
Are you two kidding me? Like, are you kidding me right now?
We backed him into a corner.
Yes.
What have you done here? Are you ever going to learn? It's parenthood. Teaching lessons is what this is about. Lamont Paris has taught us more lessons in the past 2 weeks than some people get an entire lifetime. And yet, you two, with your head in the sand, are not listening at all to what he is teaching us. So I will take the reign as the best son of the three. And I will tell you, I know you're right. You're right. South Carolina fans want us to keep picking against them. That's what they want because
doing it
it's
for
worked
them.
for them, right?
Doing it
We
for them.
shouldn't do that to them. But I'm not picking against South Carolina the rest of the season until they lose another game. So I know South Carolina fans, it's going to upset you. You're not going to be happy that I'm picking you, but I'm doing it here. I'm picking the South Carolina Gamecocks to win this game against Georgia.
Oh boy,
Max, I hate to admit it. It pains me to admit it, but this man may have a point here.
Oh yeah, we might be done for.
Listen, we're not the reason South Carolina. Our picks are not the reason South Carolina is winning games. They're winning games because they're good. They're a good basketball team, and they figured out how to win, and they figured out how to just be physical, push teams around. Georgia won the previous one. They got a chip on their shoulder in this one to the Gamecocks. Because not only do they continue to be doubted, you two come out and pick against them to be doubted even more. And they lost the game last time to Georgia. They've got all the motivation they need to go in and win this game. I agree. Georgia's been a little bit unlucky, but not a good spot to be in when Lamont Paris is coming to town. Because he's going to take your luck. He's going to stomp it into the ground. Give me the Gamecocks.
Oh God.
I have nothing more to add.
Other
than I really do like the job Mike White's doing.
That great point, Chris. I agree.
Thank you, Max. There are other teams in this league too. So
there are.
All right, boy, we can't wait to talk about this one. Missouri and Vandy. The good news here is there's only one team in the league that could possibly go winless the entire conference season. And one of those teams is going to be off that list tomorrow. Missouri, Vandy. Vanderbilt has lost, 12 of 14. Comes off, I think, its worst loss of the year, non-competitive at Auburn. Missouri, I mean, give it to Missouri. When's the last time Missouri was in a game with 7 or 8 minutes left where it just didn't have a shot? Feels like a lot of these games haven't ended up super close, but it feels like they've been there with the shot to win at some point in the second half, and it hasn't gone their way. If we created an award for MVP of a team that's irrelevant in this league, it might be Tamar Bates right now with the way he's played. Sean East can give you a lot of stuff. Ezra Mannion for Vandy, not having the season he did a year ago, but he and Tyron Lawrence on a given night can score some points. Finn Allen Lubin had a double-double in the first half against Auburn. I don't even know if home court advantage is going to be a thing here. We're in Nashville, two of us are. That fan base is so down and so ready for a coaching change that's not showing up out of protest. I mean, whoever can get motivated for this one might be the winner. That feels like it's Missouri, but I also feel like Vandy's, I don't know, maybe due. I don't know, Max.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to try to look at the numbers on this game, it's going to be two teams that rank towards the bottom half of the SEC, and in most categories, there are some things that these teams do well. Missouri does a good job at protecting the ball on offense. They don't get it stolen much. They don't get it blocked much. That's usually because of the way that the style they play offense with the one-on-one guard back downs with Bates and East and stuff. It's usually a team that avoids turnovers for the most part. And then looking at Vanderbilt, they do get to the line more than most teams, and this is a Missouri defense that ranks dead last in the SEC in putting teams on the line. So you can see at home with how aggressive Mannion and Lawrence can get. Maybe Vanderbilt just lives at the free throw line. We've heard Dennis Gates and his complaints with his team shooting free throws multiple times this year. So we could see maybe Vanderbilt have a big edge at the free throw line, but I like how you said this is probably just a game that it's what team wants it more, and if I'm going off of body language, of team chemistry, of attitude in the press conferences and whatnot, I think that's got to be Missouri here. This team's been very connected. They're very old. So I'm not going to give my pick just yet, but I do think that there's one team that just has the more paths to victory here. What do you think, Blake?
I think you two should go ahead and give your picks for this game. I don't have a
Missouri.
lot on this.
Okay, I'll start. Guys, I'm looking at the KenPom page, conference only, for this matchup. There's so much red on this page, I almost need to shield my eyes. Here's the real humdinger here. Vanderbilt offense in SEC play, 91.9 points per 100 possessions, ranks 14th. Missouri's defense ranks 14th also, 115.5 points per 100 possessions. That is atrocious. I don't even have words for this. Missouri, I guess. I just feel like if they get in a shootout, there's, a little more firepower between East and.
This game is not going to be a shootout. I'm sorry. There's no way this game is a shootout.
I'm trying to make it interesting here, and you're just making it a little bit tougher, Blake Lovell.
But I just cannot imagine this game being a shootout. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me rephrase it. If this game comes down to Magnon and Lawrence versus East and Tamar Bates, who do you trust more to win the game?
Based on recent play, I would take Bates.
And who's got more parts aside that side? Vanderbilt's got Vin Allen, Lubin, and what?
JRT.
Yeah, Missouri's not exactly setting the world on fire with its bench either, but it's like choosing between two ugly children.
So you two both picking Missouri. Well, that makes my choice.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You pick Missouri. I'm picking Vanderbilt.
Okay, we'll strike a bargain. We'll take Missouri, and you can take Vandy, just because.
No, I'm taking Vandy because I'm picking them to win the game. Because you know why? Just to spite me, Vanderbilt's going to win this game because that's going to keep Missouri winless in the SEC and on the potential path for going over this year. Just so all those people last year that were telling me how bad of a coach Dennis Gates was can come back out of the woodwork to tell me again how bad of a coach he is when I have spelled out exactly why Missouri is having issues, and I don't think it has anything to do with the on-court coaching this year. So I told you guys 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I said Vanderbilt is going to start winning a couple games somewhere. I don't care what the computers tell us. It's going to happen. And how does it get any better than this spot right here for a Missouri team that just has been so close and is just like deflated at this point? I know Vanderbilt's kind of the same way, but they're playing at home. We've seen them win games like this before where it's like you feel like that this team just is going nowhere. I know it's different this year, but and also we can't all pick Missouri because then that guarantees my client to be 0 whatever in the SEC, 0-9 at that point. So I'm picking the Commodores.
Max, I'm about to do something unprecedented on this channel. And I'm going to do it out of spite. I'm going to switch my pick.
No.
Yes.
No.
Nobody
that's not how this
can't
works.
tell me I can't do this.
Yes, I can. You cannot.
I'm picking Vandy so that he cannot be on his own gloating if that happens.
Nope.
I would rather Max gloat than Blake gloat.
Max, you're the commissioner here. The official pick was Missouri. We are not allowed to change picks after the
Judge
last
Judy. It's not
picks.
in the rules.
So
it's not in the rules
Judge
anywhere.
Judy can take her gavel and head somewhere else because, in fact,
now that
I think we should take the pick.
I might want to change my pick. No, I'm not.
That's fine. If all of you pick Vandy, then that's great. That's wonderful. Everybody pick Vanderbilt.
With Missouri. I'm sticking with Missouri. The Kangaroo Court ruled Chris can change his pick.
Yeah, yes. He can't. So he can't. His pick doesn't apply here. We're gonna edit this out.
Did you say can or can't?
You can't. We're gonna edit this out to where only Max and I are talking in this segment, and you're out of this.
All right.
We have controversy.
I'm picking Vanderbilt. Look at all this controversy over a game between two teams that are winless in the SEC. That's how much passion we put into this thing. So
it just means more.
We care. Missouri fans and Vanderbilt fans, we care. All right.
We do.
All right, let's get to this next one.
Florida and A&M. Now this one's interesting.
This is interesting.
Because you got a Florida team that's looking really good. And you have heard me talk about A&M not being able to score until I'm blue in the face. I'm not going to do that anymore. If you've watched it, you know it yourself. This game is ESPN2 at 3 Central. It is in College Station. Max, where do we start with this one?
Ooh, this is a huge game, and I think, what do we have, Chris? I have a pick 'em on this. What did you have for a line? I had a pick 'em.
Oh, let's
maybe
see.
maybe 1 point either way. I think that's what it'll be.
Pomeroy has got A&M by 2 with a 56% chance of winning, and Florida is, wow, get this. Bart Torvik has this as a 0.0 point game. I guess the tiniest of decimals favors. I guess he's got Auburn as a favorite by 1/1,000,000th of a point.
A&M.
Auburn, Florida. Looks like he's got Florida winning 77-76, but it says 50% chance of a win, 0.0. That's as much of a toss-up as you can get.
Yeah, so you got a toss-up game here, and I think for good reason. You have a Florida team that the offense has just been looking great. As you've been blue in the face talking about A&M shooting woes, I've probably annoyed everyone with how much I talk about Zion Pullen. You know how much I like the guy and how efficient this offense is when it runs through him. And you have Walter Clayton coming off of a great game. So I think the line is right there, where you have a team at home in a bounce back spot, but they struggle with offensive efficiency. So that's why I think they're not favored. But the thing for A&M is this is a must win. This is as must win as it gets. At 3-4 in conference, you can't drop to 5-3, and you have a Florida team on the road after back-to-back overtime wins. So they are in a little bit of a letdown spot. But also, this is a Florida team that can match A&M's rebounding, a rare team that can match A&M's rebounding with Hanlopton, with Samuel, with Condon. So I feel like that's gonna be a little bit of a stalemate. I don't see a rebounding edge either way for two teams that normally have a huge rebounding edge. And then just one last piece that I'm kind of looking at is, this is an A&M team that's top 30 nationally in offensive turnover rate. They take care of that ball because it's normally in Wade Taylor's hands. And this is a Florida team that's bottom 40 nationally in forcing turnovers. It's not a Florida defense that's going to force turnovers. So as inefficient as this A&M offense is, I feel like they're not going to be forced into uncomfortable situations. They're not going to be rushed, not going to be turning the ball over that much. So I think this line is right on with a pick 'em, 1 or 2, maybe either way. I think this is going to be a tight game.
Yeah, it's going to be a race to see who can miss the most shots so they can get the offensive rebound. Because that just seems to be, if they do, it's good luck getting a defensive rebound in this game. I just continue to be mesmerized by Texas A&M's offensive numbers and just how bad they are in a lot of areas other than taking care of the ball and getting the offensive rebound. But they still, they still have one of the best players in the league, in my opinion, Wade Taylor. They still have guys who are more than capable of having good offensive games. Can they finally break through here and kind of get the performance they need against a Florida team that is not the best defensively? They find ways to win recently, but it's been their offense more so than their defense. And I guess the same question will be, can Texas A&M slow down this juggernaut that is Florida right now, based on how well they're playing on the offensive side? Everybody's kind of clicking here, and certainly they've never been as confident as they are after winning at Kentucky, because they had been told by us and many other people that they had not won big games. They needed to win more of those. They finally proved they could do it. So Florida is, feeling as good about themselves as they have all season. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, well, A&M's kind of in a, I won't say desperation spot, but maybe to some extent. I mean, they're 3-4. Home game here. You got to serve home. They just lost at home to Ole Miss, so they got to be able to bounce back at home. They've already lost 2 of those this year, and that's the thing in the SEC. We know when you start giving away home games, multiple home games, you're in trouble maybe, because that means you got to go make up for it on the road, and just a lot of teams are not able to do that right now. So this is, I don't want to say must win for A&M, but they got to start taking advantage of. This was the 3-game streak we talked about, where Missouri at home, Ole Miss at home, Florida at home. They hadn't looked great in the other 2 games, even though they'd beat Missouri, and they lost, of course, to Ole Miss. So Big spot for the Aggies.
Picks. Florida
Well, it
can
doesn't matter.
score.
Doesn't matter who you pick. You're going to change it anyways. So
That's my mulligan. Good grief. Okay.
you set the
This is
precedent,
not. This
me.
is not. I'm not changing my pick. I'm locking in right here.
Yeah, right.
Florida can score from a lot of places. A&M cannot. I mean, this maybe Wade Taylor gets 40, they win. Florida goes cold, but I just feel like watching Florida right now, that team, that's a team that feels like it's about to go on a heater. Give me the Gators.
Okay, good. Blake, you said you don't think it's quite a must win. I think it is.
Close.
I think it's as close as they're going to get, especially because they haven't played since Saturday. They've just been soaking in this dread of losing at home, and now you have to go a whole week just thinking about it. This is Wade Taylor that we're talking about. Guy that can go off for 40 in any night. Yes, Florida is way better offensively, way more efficient offensively, has more options. If this was at Florida, it would be a no-brainer for me. But since it's 2 straight overtime wins, A&M with their back against the wall, they just were winning late down the stretch, gave it up late against Ole Miss, sour taste in the mouth. Buzz Williams, give me the Aggies. Give me the Aggies.
I don't have a lot more to add because I'm going the exact same route as Max. I think Texas A&M is in a back against the wall spot here. Buzz has had a week to prepare for this game. Florida's coming off back-to-back overtime games. Again, the Kentucky win, like now all of a sudden, that just changes the whole dynamic for Florida. Now you got to bounce back 3 days later, go play a team that's just going to be very physical and going to try to just get to the free throw line time and time again. So you're going to have the physicality in the paint. You're going to have, and so to me, this is not about, I think Florida's a better team. Like I absolutely think Florida's better than Texas A&M, but it's the spot. And if you're making predictions, you got to factor in the spot. And I think this is more about the spot than it is the quality of the teams. So for that reason, I will also take the Aggies here in a must-win scenario potentially.
Also, I think one more thing, Chris, that I think is just worth mentioning is now people are circling Florida on their schedule. They just beat Mississippi State. Just everyone saw the Georgia overtime win that they were up by 20, and everyone just saw them go into Rupp and win. So now we quickly went in about a 2 to 3 week span. We went from Florida hasn't won a big game. We're not picking them until they win a big game to now they've won 4 in a row, including Mississippi State and Kentucky on the road. Oh gosh, Florida's coming to town. Like that narrative quickly switched. I feel like that's going to play a little bit of a factor to the atmosphere at Texas A&M maybe.
Man, here's the other thing. We've talked about how competitive this league is night in and night. This is so much more fun than a couple of years ago where you just, this team's going to beat that team, and you'd have 7 games on a Saturday, and you'd maybe had to think about 2 of them. I mean, my probably, if you could say, all right, just pick one game and give me the winner straight up, who do you feel most confident about? It's probably LSU beating Arkansas, but I think I led off by saying I don't have a tremendous degree of confidence about that. Am I right about that? I mean, and who are you guys most confident in winning of all your 4 picks?
I mean, looking back at them, I'm not confident about. I don't think I'm feeling great about any of them. But if I had to pick one that I'm most confident in, I mean, it'd be easy to say LSU because they're probably going to be the largest spread. So I'm not going to pick them. I'll say A&M. Honestly, I think the spot is perfectly lined up. Now that I said that, Florida's going to go in there, knock down 15 threes, and win by 14.5. So we'll see. But A&M probably.
Listen, Florida wins by 14.5. That's an unprecedented result there.
It's going to
have 14.5 point win.
Yeah.
But
I
don't feel confident about any of these games.
None
of them. Not a single one. This is the most interesting Saturday we've had in the SEC so far because you've got the 2 worst teams are playing each other. And then you've got all these other teams who LSU, Arkansas, not in the same spot by any means, but standings wise, they're both down there. Then you got all the good teams playing each other. Like they're all just kind of battling it out. And so, again, not a knock on LSU. I think they're decent, but there's no way I could confidently pick any of these. So I'll go with Father Lamont Paris as my choice on the road. But I think LSU is probably the better pick at home against Arkansas. So,
in case you're wondering, why do we not talk about Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama? This because those are in separate videos.
They'll be linked in the description. They'll be linked below.
Yes.
Kentucky, Tennessee as well. That's the headliner. So we will also be talking about that.
Next.
I promise, folks. We're a little behind this week. So we will be talking about that game. You will see that on the channel. Kentucky, Tennessee fans, please go watch that game video. Watch the game too.
Also, the mailbag coming up. So anyway, yeah, tons of hoops content.
Maybe.
We'll react to all this probably Saturday night when it's over. For Blake Lovell, Max Barr. This is Southeastern 14 presented by Bet Online.